It's time for Come and Talk It with your host, Michael Cargill, brought to you by Texas Law Shield. Over the last decade, Michael has championed and supported the rights of law-abiding Texans to own and use firearms. He is the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, a veteran of the United States Army, and has achieved national exposure in such prestigious media outlets such as Forbes Magazine, Fox Business News, CNN Money, AOL, BBC World News, Huffington Post, and the New York Times. Cargill vigorously defends lawful gun ownership in this country without regard to party politics. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Get out, Brian. Here, take it.
Good day, Austin, Texas, live music capital of the world. Let's praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. So a 12-year-old boy opened fire while robbing a gas station in West Michigan earlier this week. So this shooting happened at a Marathon gas station in West Michigan there, and 12 years old. Apparently, he stole the gun from his parents, allegedly, and walked into the gas station and held him at gunpoint. And the cashier looked at him and said, "Really? You're actually robbing me? You want me to stick the money in the bag?" He said, "Yeah." And he fired a shot in the air to prove that he was serious, that it was a loaded gun. 12 years old. And I'm going to ask you, at 12 years old, what proposed gun legislation that everyone's talking about would have prevented this 12-year-old from walking to the gas station and doing this? All right, so let's see. We're not going to outright ban guns altogether. That's not going to happen in this country. We're founded on firearms, so that's not realistic. Okay, raising the age limit to 21 to purchase a rifle would not have prevented him from walking to the gas station with a handgun, which most crimes are committed by handguns, not rifles.
What about safe storage law?
Okay, so safe storage. So he apparently broke into the safe wherever the gun was located and stole the gun from his parents.
So it was in the safe.
So apparently, allegedly, it was in a safe. So we'll see. As this is early, so we got to get deeper into that to find out. So apparently, somehow, he broke into the safe. It's a rotten kid. He's a rotten kid.
That is a rotten
obviously,
kid.
he walked into the gas station with a freaking gun at 12 years old and
robbed a gas station at gunpoint.
gunpoint.
Fired a shot.
Wow, winning.
And fired a shot. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so no, that wouldn't work. Safe storage, we'll see. The jury's out on that one. Let's see. What else? What other
red flag laws?
Red flag laws. That's right. I wonder if there are any other red flags. Well, he's a rotten kid. Well, could they have reported him? Maybe a friend? Did he tell anybody? Did he post it on social media? Don't know. But if he did, we have those laws in place already. Mm-hmm. So nothing new there. Okay. Wouldn't have changed anything. So nothing would have, I don't see anything. Unless you know something, please give me a call. My call-in number is 512-643-5483. That is 512-643-5483. Give me a call and let me know, because I would like to know what proposed legislation that everyone's talking about right now, since we've had these, since the shooting that took place in Buffalo, New York, which I anticipate, because what happens is, and the news media will tell you this, ask anyone from the media, how come you guys don't report on suicides? And they tell you, we don't report on suicides because if we do, there would be more suicides. So when they covered this, the Buffalo shooting, the mass shooting, and in the way that they covered this, by continuing to go on and on and on about it, what happened is it spurred other people to commit other crimes, copycats. All copycat shootings all across the country. So it alerted all the little crazies. It was like a trigger mechanism, and they're all triggered, and they want to outdo the previous shooter.
So they admitted it.
Oh, yes. I've asked several media outlets this. National major media outlets. How come you don't report, you don't do major stories on suicides? Whenever someone jumps off a bridge or someone shoots themselves, how come you don't cover that in they said, well, because if we do, then more people will commit suicide.
So they actually admitted that.
Actually admitted it.
But then they have just 24/7 coverage of these school shootings.
Hammer it down your throat. Shooting. And all it does is trigger people. So they know the effects and the power in which they have. They know that power. And that's why they're doing what they're doing, because they're trying to affect legislation in this country. They're trying to push legislation on the national level. They're trying to push legislation on the state level for something to happen. Because what did Joe Biden said? You know, what did he say? Do something. You know, that's what Joe Biden said.
Enough. Enough.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, enough is enough. That is right. I wish he would just retire, but that's just me. Don't call me.
Come on, man.
Don't call me. No, matter of fact, do call me. Call me right now. My number is 512-643-5483. Call me now. Don't call me at the shop. Call me now. 512-643-5483. And let me know. I'm just curious. A 12-year-old kid walks into a gas station, steals a gun, walks into a gas station, fires a shot, and robs the gas station at gunpoint. You know, this is crazy. You know, there's evil out there in the world, and honestly, we need to do better at parenting. I think those are the issues. Parenting. Let's hold parents more accountable for these monsters that they're raising. We need to do a little more. If you're, you know your friends are on social media and they're saying things that you think that are not just toxic, saying things that are dangerous to other people. They're talking about, committing crime. You need to do something and report that. You hear something, say something, and let police investigate that. And so I think that will cut down on these issues that we're seeing. The guy in Uvalde, there was someone that he was talking to. He was texting throughout the entire day exactly what he was going to do. He texted this person, sent text messages to this person the day before, talked about everything that he was going to do. So it's out there, these people are talking to someone. They're alerting someone because they want someone to know that they're going to do it because they want to be heard. They want to be seen. They want a big deal. They want to be on the news. And so we're not doing anything to stop them. That's how you get it done. Parents have got to, sit down with your kids, be aware of what your kids are doing. You've got to get on their social media. You've got to take a look at their cell phone. I was actually in class today talking to one of the classes because we had two different classes today. And I was talking to one of the classes where they were shocked that in the Texas law that is legal for parents to use force on their kids. That's right. Your parents can, it's in Texas law, Texas statute, parents can beat their kids. It's in the law. And also teachers can beat their kids.
Corporal punishment is allowed in Texas?
It's called force. Parents and teachers are allowed to use force on kids.
Really?
That is right. It's in Texas law. That is right. And that's what we need. A little more beatings in this world. That's just me. I know. I'm probably going to get in trouble on social media.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
I know. I'm going to get in trouble. But if I'm wrong, give me a call. 512-643-5483. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Peace, this is Maj Toure. You're listening to Come and Talk It Radio with Michael Cargill.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02, The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were complying with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
Again, are 10 times more likely to be the victims of crime than to
I want the NRA people to have to go to all the funerals. Right. I want people who are part of the NRA to have to go to the funerals of these children.
Or look at the picture.
And also, I don't want all your guns the way you don't want to take away all my rights to abortion. I don't want all your guns. I want that AR-15. I want it. And we're going to vote it out. So it's going to not be acceptable.
Listen, even Justice Scalia, who was one of the most conservative justices in the Heller case, said that the Second Amendment is not absolute. There are limitations on it.
And in fact, what he said was the right was not a right to keep and carry any weapon whatsoever in any manner whatsoever and for whatever purpose.
Scalia
there
was
are
not
limits.
for it. He said,
there are limits.
We're not doing it anymore. Yep. I'm telling y'all, we have to vote it. We just have to put it to the vote and remove the AR-15. Keep whatever else you got. Get rid of the AR-15. We'll be back.
You're not gonna get it. You're not gonna get it. You're not gonna get it. We're not giving it to you at all. We're gonna keep them. I'm keeping all my ARs, and you're not gonna get not a one. You're not gonna get not a one.
I bet she doesn't even know what AR stands for.
No, she doesn't.
No,
because she's an idiot. And just so you know, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed. You listen to that, Whoopi Goldberg. Shall not be infringed. And let me tell you, you know who formed a well-regulated militia?
Who?
You know who did it? The Border Patrol agents down there in Uvalde. They went into that school down in Uvalde, the elementary school, against the person that was in charge, the police chief, against his orders, and they got together and they said, you know what, screw this. We're going in against, his orders, and we're going to take this shooter out. And that's exactly what he did. They formed a well-regulated militia, and they went into that school and took out the shooter. That's how it's done, and that's what it's for. That's called the Second Amendment. The proof is right there in the pudding.
Yeah, so Uvalde PD did not want them to go in. They didn't want anybody to go in, and they didn't want to go in.
Yeah, the Uvalde Independent School District police chief did not want anyone to go in. Yeah, so and guess what? The Border Patrol agents said, you know what? Nah, we're gonna do this anyway.
Yeah, after about 90 minutes, right?
77 minutes. This guy was inside the building in the elementary school. 77 minutes before he was shot and killed.
You know, to me, that seems like a long time for him to just be in there with unfettered access to whatever he wanted to do with no one standing up against him.
Yeah. And the funny thing about this, Zach, is that the chief, that police chief of the Uvalde Independent School District, he took an online active duty shooter course.
Did he? Probably a couple weeks before this, right?
He sure did. How did you know that?
Because that's just how it happens.
You know what? Let me do my refresher course online of active shooter, and that's what happens when you take an online course. Sorry, that's not funny, but that's what happens. My goodness. And I'm willing to bet that what's going to come out from this, and we're going to find out, because it's like the truth is coming out piece by piece. Every week something, we peel something back and say, hey, that wasn't true. Here's the truth here. And you know what? I'm willing to bet, just by listening to the wounded, because I'm thinking an AR-15 5.56 that bullet hits a body. If it hits someone in the shoulder, it's going to take that shoulder off.
And he was using like soft nose rounds or some kind of hunting round like that.
So so you get shot in the shoulder, it will remove your arm.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the people that were wounded and released from the hospital? I'm willing to bet that's from police fire. That's from police officers using handguns that actually shot. And I'm willing to bet that's going to be the Uvalde Independent School District. This is just my guess. The Uvalde Independent School District, when they arrived on the scene, I think they accidentally shot some of the kids initially. And that's why they pulled back and said, hold your position. I think they kind of freaked out at what they did.
Freaked themselves out, you think?
Yes, I think so. Because I'm listening to the, just the wounded. I'm like, wounded? Hold on. You were shot with an AR as an elementary school kid with a 5.56 bullet? Nah, you didn't get released from the hospital in a couple of hours. Not with a 5.56 No, ma'am, no, sir. That's going to be a handgun. That's a handgun bullet there.
Oh, but Biden said that a 9mm bullet can blow your lung out of your back, though.
Yeah, well, he also said, step out on your front porch and fire a shot in the air off your shotgun too.
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Yeah,
he also said, "You lying dog-faced pony soldier," whatever that means.
Lying dog-faced pony soldier.
Yeah, he did. He's so senile. Bless his heart. All right, I tell you, in like I said, more and more stuff is coming out of the Uvalde. There's a video we're gonna play you later on in the hour, a funeral home interview. The people that worked at the funeral home across the street from the elementary school, when they're going to tell you what happened when the shooter pulled in, wrecked the vehicle, and started firing shots at them. Apparently, they actually, the employee of the funeral home wanted to go get his rifle to go into the school and chase down the shooter, but the police told him no. Man, crazy. And now he's having guilt because of that. He's having like survivor's guilt. Because he has been the pallbearers for several of these funerals, and he was capable of stopping his shooter and didn't because the police stopped him. And
who's that on, him or the police?
He's feeling guilty. And these people, this little town is a very, very, very small town, and they're going through it's going to be a lot of pain, a lot of therapy. I mean, I wouldn't drive anywhere near Uvalde right now. In the next 30 years, 40 years, I wouldn't drive anywhere near this town at all. These kids.
Tough.
These kids, what they experience in that school, man, oh no.
And they're wanting to bulldoze the school before completely finishing the investigation.
All of these kids, however many kids are in this school for the next 50, 60 years, they are traumatized. Mm-hmm. You're going to raise a generation of traumatized people.
They want to just completely tear down that school, rebuild it.
But that's not going to change anything because now it's been embedded in their head. These people are traumatized. They've experienced something very traumatic. So they're going to be traumatized as parents when they grow up, as teenagers, parents, grandparents, and then they're going to raise kids. That's going to affect that generation. So we're talking generations to come. I wouldn't go anywhere near Uvalde because of this. Also, let's see.
Oh, and Uvalde police and the Uvalde school district, they are no longer cooperating with the Texas probe of the shooting.
Yeah, and see, that's something that needs to change. So we need to have some type of legislation because we need to stop this thing of police departments being able to investigate themselves and have no oversight whatsoever. A police department can, something happens, there needs to be some kind of civilian oversight. And I say this almost every single radio show.
And there needs to be transparency.
It needs to be. And there needs to be a civilian oversight where they have the authority to prosecute, and, not just, this is just crazy to me.
Not just have
as a
complete qualified immunity.
Yeah, as a professional truck driver, you can be a professional truck driver. That's your job, your profession. And something happens, as a professional truck driver, you can't be 0.08. You have to be below that legal limit. You're held accountable
higher
even when you're driving
standards.
even when you're driving your private vehicle, your POV, your privately owned vehicle. You're held to a much higher standard in your private vehicle as if you're driving a commercial vehicle. So it doesn't make sense to me that we're not holding police officers to that standard. We always make excuses for them when they make mistakes. Oh, well, they have a tough job. We got to stop making excuses and hold them accountable. And don't get me wrong, I support law enforcement. I'm pro law enforcement. We need more police officers here in Austin, Texas. We need double the amount of police officers that we have here in this town. Because one, road rage is going through the roof, crime is through the roof. We're dealing with so many break-ins and thefts and robberies in this town, and so many different shootings. It's like it's doubled here, like overnight, in a matter of like a year, and because we don't have enough law enforcement. But when you're on the job, you're supposed to be held. You should be held to that much higher standard because you've had the training. You've had the training. You know how to conduct yourself. You know what the rules are. Let's follow those rules.
Yeah, and we have the expectation of police officers to be, heroic, kind of like we do with firemen.
Right.
You think of firemen as the guys who will go up to that burning building and run inside of it in order to save some people who are trapped, right?
Yeah.
So you would think police would kind of be expected to hold that same standard of, putting themselves on the line for other people that they've sworn to serve and protect, right?
Right. Exactly. I can't go, like the ATF comes in and says, hey, Michael, as a federal firearms license dealer, you're supposed to do A, B, C, D, E, and F. Okay. If you don't do A, B, C, D, E, and F, then we're going to call you into the carpet. And, I don't get a pass by saying, oh, well, it's okay, Michael, because you do so many, transactions. You do, thousands of transactions a year.
You have a hard job.
Yeah, you have a very hard job. So we're going to let you pass because of this, because your job is really hard and it's very stressful. So we're going to let you slide. That's not how it happens in any profession in this country.
Oh, some guns disappeared? That's okay. Yeah, you had a hard month. You're real busy.
Yeah, it's okay. We understand. No, it doesn't happen like that. You're going to be held accountable for that. I'm going to be held accountable for that. I can go to jail, prison for that, because that is a federal law. I'm a federal firearms license dealer. That means everything I do in the gun store, I got to follow the federal law, federal guidance. That's how it works. We come back from the break. We're going to talk about Trump Jr. We're going to talk about more about Uvalde. We got a lot more to talk about. News stories all around the country. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Hi, this is Stephen Williford, the Barefoot Defender. I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs but you say something incriminating on your own without being questioned, those statements
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back and we're talking about gun news from all around the world, all around the country here. Donald Trump Jr. argued on Saturday that guns aren't to blame for the massacre at a school in Uvalde, Texas, suggesting that the shooter could have killed children with a bat or a machete. In a video posted on Facebook, Trump Jr. sought to counter those proposing tighter gun laws in the wake of the shooting at Robb Elementary School last week that left 19 students and 2 teachers dead. They'll blame it on the guns. They'll blame it on everything because no one can possibly take responsibility for their actions, he said in the video. And he continued by making fun of people who would blame the shooting on the gun, but not this sociopath wielding it. And what's funny to me is a lot of excuses I'm hearing. I'm hearing excuses from the mother. I'm hearing excuses, and that's excuses. The mother is saying, well, please, forgive, you need to forgive my son. He had a reason for going into that school. What?
Yeah, he had his reasons.
What? Is she crazy?
Okay, so he was picked on by high school kids, so he went to an elementary school.
So that's a reason? She's
Were
crazy.
these 10-year-olds picking on him?
And there lies the problem. The mother is the problem. The mother, she raised this sociopath.
Father wasn't there.
And the father wasn't there?
He lived a couple blocks down, but he was totally out of the picture, is my understanding.
Had no guidance whatsoever. Didn't have a father figure in his life.
And didn't even have that mother figure, really, because he lived with his grandparents.
Lived with his grandparents.
His
and
grandmother, who he shot in the face.
Who he shot in the face, who couldn't keep up with him. Who shoots their grandparents, their grandmother in the face?
So,
would an age limit change that? I'm just putting it out there. Raising the age limit to 20. You can raise the age limit to 30. Okay, this kid was a nutcase, and he would have done the same thing at 30 years old because he was crazy.
So the left says blame the gun. The right says blame mental illness. But in reality, this is really just evil.
It's evil.
It's
He was
beyond mental illness. It is evil.
Yeah, he's definitely evil.
And what do you do about evil?
You kill evil. That's the only thing you can do.
In the moment when it is committing its evil.
If everyone does their job, we're going back to locking and securing the doors. I said this on the last show. This was discussed back in 2018 during the Santa Fe high school shooting. We got to do something about all the doors at schools. We got to reduce the amount of doors, secure the doors, have a plan for locking the doors. Here we are in 2022. And you mean to tell me that they don't have sensors in the main office to let them know that the door is propped open? This is 2022. How can you not have that? Mm-hmm. I have that I know in my business, I will know if my front door, my back door is propped open for 30 seconds or longer. The system will let me know. How do you not know that in 2022? What if, what if someone comes in the gun store and steals some firearms? You're going to hold me accountable for that. You're going to hold me accountable, for not securing the building. But we're not doing that for this school here. We're not holding the teachers. Where's the principal of Uvalde Elementary School? Where are the administrators with this stuff? Give me a call. My number is 512-643-5483. Call me because I'd like to know. Someone's to blame for this. If the door was broken, if it didn't latch properly, if it was propped open, That should have been addressed and fixed immediately. We're talking about protecting the babies here. Complacency kills people. That's what gets you killed and gets you hurt. Complacency, being lazy about security. You lock these doors, secure the doors. There should be 2 teachers assigned to each door to check and make sure those doors are locked and make sure the classrooms are locked. I've gone and spoken to a lot of different schools around the state of Texas. And I'm telling you now, every school I've been to, I've had to be buzzed into the school. You can't just go through a side door. It doesn't happen that way. It shouldn't be like that. At this point in 2022, we should definitely have had a plan for these doors. A person should not be able to run to the school, wreck their car, run to the school, and immediately open the door and go inside and start killing babies. Absolutely not. And then, man, the incompetence of the independent school district police department. I'm just floored by that. Totally floored. You have body armor, you have the rifles, you have the handguns, you have the ammunition, and there's a video. We have a video of a little girl that says that, hey, the one of the police officers opened the door, they looked at us, and then they closed the door back. What is that all about? Cowards. That's what it's about. And I can't get away from that. I'm sorry. They're kids. Man, there's no way in the world I could sleep that night without going, thinking, oh my goodness, these kids, I'm going to give my life for these. There's no way I'm going to let anything happen to these children.
Yeah, I bet any one of those parents would have been willing to go into that room, bum rush that guy, even if they didn't have a gun or any kind of weapon. I bet any one of those parents would gladly have gone in there just for the chance to stop this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And Trump Jr. is among several Republicans who have defended gun ownership in the aftermath of this shooting. His father, former President Donald Trump, said in a speech at the National Rifle Association's annual meeting that leaders should make it far easier to confine the violent and mentally deranged into mental institutions. So you have to go back and do some research on the mental institutions and find out why we're in the predicament that we're in today.
Was Reagan? Was it?
That defunded, those institutions, and there's a reason he defunded the institutions. But yeah, that was done during the Reagan administration. And man, and we have these problems, all over Austin. I just think of, like even today, I'm teaching a beginner firearm safety course, and then the clerk Matthew comes in and lets me know there's a problem, in the gun room. Apparently, there's a guy who's deranged in the gun room, asking, trying to buy a gun, asking questions, want to take a class, and he's just out of his mind. And so I have to come out and address this guy and walk him out the building, put him outside and kick him out off the property, in the middle of my class. And it's just, this the things that we have to deal with on a daily basis. I deal with this all the time, and I don't have the energy, I don't have the time to call the police. It's not worth my energy. It's not worth my time because they're not going to show up because there are no resources. So I don't even bother with it. So I deal with it myself. You remove this person from the building, kick him off the property, and go on about my business and continue with my day. Because that's all I can do. Because there's no need calling the police because they're not going to show up. It's just where we are today. This is 2022. I have to handle it myself, and that's sad. This is where we are, and it will be a continued problem because I can't get this person reported. Guess what? I can't get him. He's a problem. We're trying to get him off the property. Committing criminal trespass. Asking questions about things. And he clearly is not the type of person to own a firearm with a concept, a gun store, telling you someone shouldn't have a gun. But I can't call the police because they're not going to show up, so it's not worth the energy. Guess what? That person is still a problem out there. That person is going to be a problem in the next hour. That person is going to be a problem tomorrow. That person it's going to grow to something else until he does something really big. And then guess what we're going to do? If he gets his hand on a gun, he does something really big, then we're going to blame the gun. And we couldn't get any assistance to deal with them before now. That's what we're talking about right there. Prime example of why we're in the situation that we're in today. What else we got to talk about? In the Uvalde Police Department, Uvalde School District Police Department, like you said earlier, Zach, they're no longer cooperating with the Texas probe of the shooting. And so I don't know if that's changed because things change from day to day, week to week, about this. So I was talking about that earlier. I didn't finish my thought. Is that we've got to uh, these the school districts are held accountable by someone, and either we need to put rules or laws in place to where these agencies, these departments do their job. There's a big, huge problem with agencies, police departments, even cooperating with gun stores, assisting gun stores. Is the issue with that? There's so many different things that we can focus on that we can tighten up our system and our checks and our balances here to where we can get things done. But first you got to start by adding more police officers, making sure they have the right resources, holding them accountable, making sure those resources are being used the right way, and then they need to assist the gun stores. Yeah, because we're not getting any assistance at all. Person walks into a gun store, they want to sell a gun, wants to repair a firearm. There's no way the gun store can verify that gun's been reported stolen. No way at all. And that's a major issue that I've constantly talked about. And, a lot of gun stores have this issue. A lot of gun stores call me, it's like, hi, what do we do about this? How can we fix this? How come we're not getting any help from our local police department on this? I said, because they talk about, wanting to do the right thing. Your city council, your mayor, the your state legislature talks about wanting to do something about crime or violence. Your DA, the district attorney, talks about it, and that's all they do. They use it as a talking point, but when it comes to actually solving the problem, they don't want to do anything to solve the actual problem. So here's what I'm going to do. Next Sunday at Central Texas Gunworks, we're going to have a gun discussion for the next show from 4 to 5:30 p.m. on next Sunday, which is June 12th at 4 p.m. live on the air at Central Texas Gunworks in the gun store, in the classroom. I'm inviting the Austin Mayor, Steve Adler. I'm inviting the police chief of the Austin Police Department. I'm inviting the district attorney to Central Texas Gunworks. I'm inviting all the city council members to the gun store. I'm inviting some elected officials. Heck, I'll even invite the freaking governor and the lieutenant governor to the gun store to talk about this in the gun store. In the gun store, what a concept. I want to talk about gun violence in the gun store and what we can actually do and solve the problem. I'm inviting all news outlets to the gun store for an hour and a half. I don't want to argue. I don't want to debate. I want to talk about what we really can do, what both sides can agree on what we can do and go forward. Let's talk about what is achievable. What are some goals that are achievable that we both can do on both sides? Because there are some issues, there are some problems, and we need to address the real problems. We got to come together and listen to each other. And I'm going to hope and pray that I can make this happen next Sunday at Central Texas Gunworks at 4 p.m. on June 12th.
And we'll also have another guest there, right?
We're also going to have the Cantor family.
For those of you who don't remember, Doug Cantor was killed on 6th Street
a year ago next Sunday. It'd be a year ago, June 12th, in that mass shooting that took place in Austin.
14 injured or something like that. Isn't that right?
Right. And he was the only one that actually was killed in that particular shooting. Happened downtown Austin. So the family's going to be here, and we're going to invite them and all of our elected officials, and we'll see who shows up, because they want to they want to have their different events all around town and talk about gun violence. But let's get together. Can we have a true, real discussion? Because I don't want to argue. I don't want to debate. I want to talk about, some goals that actually are achievable. What are some of the things we actually can do to get done? I don't want talking points. I want solutions. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Coley on Noir, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
Hello, my name is Edwin Walker. I'm an independent program attorney with Texas Law Shield. I want to talk to you today about an issue that we see on a daily basis. In fact, you yourself will encounter it on a daily basis, and that is the subject of road rage. I am sure that you have all seen road rage. You may have actually been involved in a road rage incident. Now, if you're a responsible gun owner, I'm going to give you a few words of advice on how to react when you find yourself in one of these unfortunate road rage incidents. While on the roadways, we all observe something that makes us upset. Whether it's poor driving, unsafe driving, or just simply somebody being very discourteous. By all means, you should restrain yourself from engaging that person and telling them how bad their actions were, because this can be perceived as an act of road rage. If you're a lawful gun owner, you have a firearm in your vehicle, you do not want to be viewed as the aggressor in a road rage situation. Now, with regard to a situation where an individual has chosen to rage against you, and you are the actual victim of the road rage, if you and the other individuals are still in their automobiles, do not use your firearm to respond to any of the rager's activities. This is because law enforcement views the fact that you're both still safely in your metal boxes as removing any threat of immediacy that you may be harmed. So please, if you have a gun, somebody is raging against you, forget you have a gun. Don't display it, don't brandish it, don't show it, don't point it, and for God's sake, don't fire it. This could result in a lot of trouble for you. Now let's look at a situation where a road rage incident has escalated. It has escalated to the point where one of the participants has actually gotten out of their vehicle. We recommend that you stay in your vehicle at all times. Do not exit your vehicle, because the person who exits their vehicle is going to be looked at as the aggressor. If the other individual has exited their vehicle, and they are not in contact with your vehicle, and they do not have a weapon, then do not feel that you can display your weapon in an act of self-defense. People are allowed to just simply stand there and scream at you, scream whatever they want. Until they make a demonstrative effort to try to harm you, there is no immediate threat that would justify displaying or shooting or brandishing your firearm. Now, in the event that the person shows their own weapon, in particular a firearm, the existence of their weapon would give
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
Remembering the last moments with her best friend in class.
We were told that we were going to go into lockdown.
The terror was about to begin inside room 112.
My friend was saying that it was really normal and don't be scary because nothing's going to happen.
Chloe Torres is new to Robb Elementary. Her best friend, Amory Jo Garza.
I didn't feel safe about her.
The gunshot started. Chloe and all the students hid to try to survive.
I was kind of looking at the ground because I was scared.
The fourth grader says the gunmen entered their classrooms of Miss Irma Garcia and Miss Eva Mireles. The 10-year-old recounting what her teachers did.
She ran over to us, sat down, and started covering my friend. She started saying no because he said, "You'll die." And she shot my friend with the phones. And he shot my teacher, Miss Garcia, and Miss Mireles.
At one point, the brave little girl turned her friend's phone off.
I didn't want anybody else to get hurt.
Chloe walked out of that class without her BFF. Amory, considered a hero, was one of the students who called 911. She is also one of the 19 students killed. A week since the shooting, Chloe went back to Robb, a place where she met her best friend, the place where she lost her.
I would tell them I love them and I'm going to miss them.
Very sad. Very sad. Definitely have to do more to protect the babies. We're in a habit of having police officers at high schools and middle schools and using them for disciplinary actions, but we're not in the business of having them there to protect the school as security. That should be their job, to have police officers there for security to protect the school, not as a disciplinary tool. And unfortunately, the majority of your elementary schools around the country do not have a police officer at the school because you know why? Elementary schools are not a disciplinary problem where you need a police officer.
You want to know why it really is, though, that they don't have private security?
Why?
It's because all the private security, they've already been hired to guard politicians, teams of them.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's right.
These politicians have 5, 6, 7 people.
Deep.
Yeah. And they have weapons that cannot be purchased by the general public.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what a concept.
Yeah, you look at Nancy Pelosi, she's got 5 guys at her side in suits with short barrel rifles under their jacket.
What a concept.
Mm-hmm. Just think, if we just had one person.
Just one.
At each school.
Just one.
Uh-huh.
All you need was one.
Yep.
And, you know, and someone that fills in for that person when they go to lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What a concept. It's
Yeah,
not
if this
that.
person
It's not even that
wasn't
difficult.
plainly marked, you know.
Yeah, it's not
They're
even that
just
difficult.
wearing regular clothes.
Yeah, and all the shootings. Guess what? All the shootings typically happen between the time school opens and always before lunch.
First thing in the day.
In the day. Yeah, that's when it always happens. So it's like a no-brainer. You know, you would think, okay, let's tighten up security. That's when they always happen, folks. You always hear them 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, school opens, and it's always before noon when these things happen. So during that time frame, you would think they would tighten up security during that time frame to make sure. Let's make sure those doors are locked. Let's not be complacent first thing in the morning. Let's have a routine. You know, once all the kids are in, we've played our pledge of allegiance to the flag, our pledge of allegiance to the Texas flag. We used to do a morning prayer. I don't think they do that anymore, right?
No, they don't do that
They don't
anymore.
pray anymore. So that's been a long. I'm telling my age now. Okay, so
They did it when I was at school.
Shows how much I know, right?
Used to say the Pledge of Allegiance
Right.
too and all that.
Yeah.
Don't know if they do that anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. These people, everyone's born after 1993. That's a whole nother generation anyway.
Mhm.
Usually bisexual anyway, so I don't even know. But anyway, moving on. So,
You went off the rails there real quick.
Yeah, real quick. And womp womp. Okay, so we during that time frame, you would think we have a plan for 2 teachers. Your assignment is this particular door. You're to check the door, and then you're also to go back and check the door also. Let's double do it. You had double duty there, and then secure the classrooms. Let's conduct our class, and then we're gonna now there's the next break. The first break, same thing. Kids walk the hall, do whatever. Da 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 da. Let's secure the doors. Same thing. When that next break is over, and let's have 2 people checking those doors. Very easy concept, and we've tested glass out. You know that? Back in 2018, we had the Santa Fe High School shooting. We tested glass specifically for schools. And this glass, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This glass was designed so that teachers would be able to shoot out that window at a shooter and shoot the shooter, but the shooter wouldn't be able to shoot into the school.
One-way bulletproof glass, basically.
Bullet resistant. That's right. Because nothing is really proof.
That's what this colloquially termed.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's what it was designed for. And we tested this stuff out, and it worked great. I took it to the range. I used different calibers, and all that stuff, and it worked wonderful. So it gives you that time. You can never stop someone 100%. What you can do is slow them down. Locking the doors, the glass that slows them down. That gets a police officer there to stop this person while they're still outside the building trying to get in the building.
I don't think you would give them 77 minutes, though.
Yeah. That's a whole nother level of cowardice I don't understand. Sorry.
Yeah, please explain that one to me.
Yeah, I can't. It's
Help me
hard.
understand.
Yeah. And now the next one I want to show you is we have the funeral attendant who encountered the gunman says that he tried to go after that shooter, but was held back. So once again, in Uvalde, a funeral attendant, and this is the person that came across the shooter first. So right when the guy got there, wrecked his vehicle, he jumped out his vehicle, and that's when the funeral attendant was, across street from the school. That's where the funeral home was, and they, encountered this guy. He fired shots at them. And this guy, went and got his rifle to go into the school to stop the shooter, but was stopped by law enforcement. Take a listen to this.
me thinking he was dazed out. I told him, "You okay? Are you all right, man? You need help?" And he looks away from me inside his truck, and I see him grabbing something from his truck. And I was still asking him, "Hey, man, you okay?" At that moment, he looks right back at me and with that evil look, and I see this rifle.
How far were you from him?
I was from like maybe 8-10 feet around there. And as he takes out this rifle, he's looking at me, and I tell my coworker, "Oh man, he has a gun, he has a gun." And as soon as I say that, I tell him, "Run, run, he has a gun." We both take our running. As I turn around, I fell. I fell on the street because there was a sidewalk and the little curb. I fell on the street, and I scraped my elbow and I messed up my thumb. And when I fell, I'm looking back at him like this, and he's trying to clip on the. Loaded. I knew what kind of gun it was. It was an AR-15, and I could see when he's trying to put that clip on that gun. And as I look up, my coworker was already, across the street. And as soon as I'm getting up, I'm looking back, and this guy's already pointing at us. And you just hear, pa, 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 pa.
And he missed all those shots?
He was shooting at both of us, and I could just hear a ricochet. Pshoo, pshoo, pshoo. And I look at him like that, and I get up, and as I'm running, I look back, and he was aiming that barrel right at me and my coworker. And pa, 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 pa.
Man, that's crazy. And then he actually went and got his gun to try to go into the school to stop the shooter, but he was stopped by law enforcement from going in. And so the shooter was able to get into the building and stay in the building for 77 minutes. 77 minutes, over an hour in the building before he was stopped by Border Patrol agents who formed a well-regulated militia, went against the officers on the scene. The officer in charge orders, went in anyway, and stopped and killed the shooter. We come back from the break. I want to talk about the Austin Police Department. We want to talk about Buffalo GOP. I want to talk about the escaped Texas inmate, also the Phoenix police officer, discuss that, and a GOP lawmaker pulls out a gun. We come back from the break. We're going to discuss all that. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Brittany Glaze, and I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, I'm going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this is goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And you know, that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
And I do want to play a video a little later on in this next 30 minutes here. Angeli, Angeli Gomez. She did an interview with CBS Morning News. It was on their Twitter. Angeli Gomez, and she was the mother of the two kids at the Robb Elementary School who was handcuffed by marshals at the scene. They finally released her from handcuffs, and she darted past the police and went into the school anyway, grabbed her unarmed, grabbed her kids, and pulled them out of their classroom. Unarmed, went through police and grabbed her kids and brought them to safety. Angela Gomez. And then apparently she was threatened because Angeli Gomez happened to be on probation. And so they threatened to revoke her probation. So, and this lady's a hero because she was a mama bear. Mama bear, her kids were in trouble. Her kids were scared. They're probably sending her text messages that they were scared. And so mom did what moms do. And she went into that school. She darted past police, went into the school, grabbed her kids, and brought her kids out to safety. That's how it's done. Let me tell you. And I do want to play that video a little later in the hour of her interview, because that's a very good interview. She describes the whole detail. She talks about it, and she's very emotional. She's really, and that's what moms do. If we can't, can't do it, then send the mother in. Send the mother in. Give the mother the guns. They'll go in. They'll take care of that shooter. Trust me. Those mothers, they're going to protect their kids. Take a listen to Angeli Gomez.
Right away as I parked, U.S. Marshals started coming toward my car saying that I wasn't allowed to be parked there. And he said, well, we're going to have to arrest you because you're being very uncooperative. I said, well, you're going to have to arrest me because I'm going in there, and I'm telling you right now, I don't see none of y'all in there. Y'all are standing with snipers, and y'all are far away. If y'all don't go in there, I'm going in there. He right, immediately put me in cuffs.
She says after Uvalde police officers told marshals to uncuff Gomez, she ran towards the school.
As soon as they uncuffed me, I jumped that first gate fence. And once I jumped it, I went to my son's class. And I knocked on the door, and I remember the teacher saying, I'm like, hey, they're already bolt cutting the fence to get me. She's like, you think we have time to get out? I said, y'all have time. I'm going to run for my other son.
Once she was assured her son was okay, Gomez ran to get her other child, encountering more officers who tried to stop her.
So I start yelling, and I'm being a cooperative, and I'm like, well, y'all aren't doing what are y'all doing? Y'all ain't doing y'all need to be in here. Give me your vest. Somebody give me a vest, something. I started paying attention to how far the shots were being, so that I knew the shooter was all the way still by my first son's class. So when I went to my second son's door, the teacher didn't want to open the door for me. So that's when they started escorting me out. And as I see that they're opening my son's door, I go run for him and get him.
With both of her kids out safe, Gomez still can't shake the thought of those who didn't make it.
While you were inside the school, did you see officers
there was
inside
not
the
one
school?
Officer inside the school when I ran to my second son's class. There was not one officer.
And you were hearing gunshots, so you knew
you could hear the
it
gunshots.
was an active shooter.
It was still active. The gunshots were still active. They were not in there. There was no one in there. If anything, when I pulled up, my car was closer to the school than where the snipers and everybody that was laying on the ground were.
When you heard that it took law enforcement 75 minutes before they went in and stopped the shooter, what was your thinking, having been inside the school yourself?
I don't know. I was just thinking that they could have saved many more lives. They could have gone into that classroom and maybe 2 or 3 would have been gone, but they could have saved the whole class. They could have done something. Gone through the window, sniped them through the window. I mean, something, but nothing was being done. If anything, they were being more aggressive on us parents that were willing to go in there. And like I told one of the officers, I don't need you to protect me. Get away from me. I don't need your protection. If anything, I need you to go in there with me to go protect my kids. And if anything, they were being more aggressive on us. They were more pertaining on keeping us back than getting into that school.
Very sad. Listen to that. And that's the true story. Let's not let them, some media outlets paint you a different picture of what it was on the ground down. Listen to this young lady, listen to all the other videos that we've showed, you've listened to today of people that were actually on the ground and what they saw and what they experienced. That's the truth. Because we have yet to hear this. I've yet to hear any of this, in detail like this from the Texas Department of Public Safety or the governor or anyone like that. So, we're getting this, man, this is fresh here. So these people were on the ground.
You know what she's claiming now, too?
What's that?
Gomez claims she got a call from someone in law enforcement who said if she kept speaking out about the botched police response to the massacre, she'd be charged with a probation violation for obstruction of justice.
Thuggish. Bunch of thugs threatening this mother who's a hero. Nothing but a bunch of thugs. That's who does that. She's a hero. And like she said in the video, they're more aggressive to her than getting in there and saving those babies. Shame, just shameful.
And they're just outside hearing gunshots.
Just shameful.
Knowing their kids are in there.
A disgrace. Shameful. So let's talk about Austin, Texas. So in Austin, 5 of the 19 police officers indicted on aggravated assault charges stemming from the May 2020 protests have filed a lawsuit against the city of Austin, the Travis County District Attorney's Office, and various social justice groups. The officers filing suit are Joshua Jackson, Roland Rast, Todd Gilbertson, Derek Lehman, and Alexander Lamoste. They're all on administrative leave pending the outcome of the criminal charges. And the lawsuit states that plaintiffs were ordered to respond and were given less than lethal beanbag rounds, for which they were provided no training and of proved to be defective or expired. Adam Murray, the attorney representing the 5 officers, says they filed now because the statute of limitations for certain legal actions stemming from the May 2020 protest expired last month. We brought this suit now because it's only been 3 months since their indictments, and that's when the fullest extent of damages became known to my clients. Because before that, their damages were different, according to the attorney. The Austin Police Department has previously addressed the faulty beanbag rounds, and they say that, hey, we reached out to, just so you know, I'm hoping to get someone from the Austin Police Department, on our panel next week to discuss gun violence in Austin and these mass shootings. I want to talk about gun violence in the gun store and talk about solutions. I want to hear from the police department. I want to hear from the attorney. I want to hear from the district attorney's office. I want to hear from the mayor, city council. Those are the people I want to hear from. What are some of the solutions that are attainable? The city learned of a potential lawsuit through the media, and if and when the lawsuit is filed in court, the city will follow its regular process to respond to a civil lawsuit brought against the city. That's a statement by the city of Austin. And the lawsuit also alleges numerous times the crowds were riotous and the officers followed orders to keep the crowd safe. Causes of action in suit claimed intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation, malicious prosecution, negligence, and negligent hiring, vision training, and retention, among other things. None of them had training on using these types of weapons while wearing gas masks, according to the attorney for the officers, which is obviously difficult because in this situation, they made the decision to put the CS gas out onto the interstate. And these officers are now having to use these weapons with these masks that block their field of vision and make it more difficult. Some of these officers were also not specialty officers and were not part of the special response team. So some of these officers had no training on how to use these less than lethal rounds. So that's from and you got to follow that story. That's a really important story because that's May of 2020. And that's when, a lot of things were going on around the town, man. That's when all the, the break-ins were happening. The riots were going on. While the riots were going downtown, you had break-ins all around the city because the police were focused. Police were, spending those resources trying to, control and, contain the protesters. They didn't have enough police officers to patrol the streets. And so that's when, we had a break-in attempt at the gun store. That's when Red's Indoor Gun Range had a break-in. About 40 guns were stolen. Both two academies were broken into. Some pawn shops were broken into. Targets were broken into. A lot of things were happening. And all that stuff happened around the same night, which is crazy. And so it was a very crazy time. So hopefully a lot of that stuff comes up because you got to paint that picture of how things really were, when this stuff happens. And you know what? I have jury duty.
What?
Yes. They're not going to pick me, right?
Maybe.
Nah, see me, I'm not gonna wear a red shirt. I'm gonna go in there in a black shirt. I'm gonna try to, try to change my look and everything. Wear some glasses. To look like a totally
Shut your
different.
mouth.
Yes, I am. Look like a totally different
You
person.
can have a Bible in your hand. When you walk
Yes,
in.
praising the Lord. Say my little prayer and everything. Sit down. And yes, no, answer the questions and all that good kind of stuff. And
You're gonna wear your holster on your belt.
no holster. No holster. None of that. And then see if I can, get on this jury. But they gotta kick me. I guarantee they kick me off within the first hour.
You never know. Maybe you'll get to complete your civic duty.
I'm trying. I want to try to. And that's why I responded to the letter, a postcard, or whatever that I got, and answered the questionnaire online, and all that good kind of stuff, because I want to do my duty as a taxpayer, as a voter, do my civic duty and do jury duty.
Yeah, last time I was called into jury duty, I'm waiting there, and then they come out and say, "Oh, well, he pleaded guilty, so you guys aren't needed anymore. Thanks for coming, though." And I was like,
all right. We come back from the break. We got to talk about Buffalo GOP. Escaped Texas inmate, Phoenix police officer, GOP lawmaker pulls out a gun. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Folks, this is Doug Man Jones. And I get my gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back, and let's go to the phone lines. Our call-in number is 512-643-5483. That's 512-643-5483. Hey, caller, you're a caller. You are on. Steven, you're on with Come and Talk It. What's going on with Steven there, sir?
Yeah, good evening.
Good.
Well, I heard a week ago from Joshua Phillip on the Epic Times. He's got a podcast that he does in the evening. That one of his other reporters at Epic Times, Jack Phillips, had interviewed Customs and Border Patrol agent Wayne Jackson. He's the guy who shot the shooter. Apparently, he was off duty. He was getting a haircut. He gets the call, and before he's even finished with his haircut, the barber loans him the shotgun, and he went and took care of business.
Now,
with a shotgun.
Now, more is coming out from that because he's now, and I know exactly what you're talking about, Stephen. He's now recanted that. He's backed that story up a little bit and said, yes, he did borrow a shotgun. He was getting a haircut. He grabbed the barber's shotgun, went to the school. Now saying he was not the one that actually shot, the shooter. He's now he's now come back down away from that statement initially that he made.
Do you think that he's backing down because he's being coerced to do so? He is a federal agent in an administration which is very anti-gun,
right?
And there were federal marshals on the scene helping to restrain the parents.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, and mind you, this is a very small town. This is not like Austin. You're talking very small, very, very.
Yeah, I think that the whole town had like 8 or 9 police.
Right.
And then they had 19 law enforcement people show up.
Right.
That were supplemented by federal marshals. And federal marshals, they probably have active shooter training.
Right.
And they sat there for, almost an hour.
Yeah. And all of them really.
Instead of doing what multiple had been trained how to do and what to do.
Right. Yeah.
I heard Uvalde's police budget is 40% of their city's budget.
Wow.
Yes, this same the same school had been shut down with lockdowns 48 times during the previous one school year.
Really? Didn't know that.
So kids totally thought it was nothing when it happened, I bet.
Well, yeah, they're so used to doing lockdowns. Apparently,
completely desensitized.
So close to the border, there's these armed people or suspicious people coming over the border with this border invasion we got going. That every time they see somebody, they end up shutting the school down.
48 times in the last year. Geez, that's like once a week.
Right. Yeah.
Or more.
48 lockdowns.
Wow. That's a lot.
Uvalde, the border is a mess.
Right.
The people down at the border are completely fed up with this open border thing. Anyway, I'm glad that y'all had heard some more on that, but it's pretty amazing story that a guy who's off duty, he speeds to and he's the one who helps initiate the BOTAC team to go in and take care of business.
Right.
I've heard that he was the guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Being that this is a very small town, everyone knows everyone. A lot of people are related to each other. Man, it's a crazy situation. And I hate that this is going to affect that area for generations to come. Generations to come. Something so tragic. All right. Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate it, sir.
Why the federally trained marshals
All right.
who knew how and what to do were so busy outside trying to restrain the parents instead of trying to get in there and stop the active shooter.
That's right. All right. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate the call, sir. All right. So let's talk about the GOP. So in Washington, Florida Congressman Craig Stew pulled out multiple handguns during a House Judiciary Committee hearing Thursday aimed at curbing mass shootings. The Republican congressman appeared by video conference from his Florida home, arguing that Democrats are trying to strip Americans' constitutional right to bear arms by restricting the ammunition they use. Don't let them fool you that they're not attempting to take away your ability to purchase handguns, according to the congressman. He says they are using the magazine ban to do it. And the congressman said his Sig Sauer P365XL comes with a 15-round magazine and would be banned if the Democrats Protecting Our Kids Act passes. The congressman also said the Glock 19 would be banned as well. He also displayed his Sig Sauer P226 and a Sig Sauer 320. The display of weapons added to the tensions of legislative hearing packed with partisan and personal broadsides over an issue that has deeply divided Americans. And Strobe demonstrated his firearms. Democratic Rep. Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas could be heard cutting into his speech. I hope that the gun is not loaded, she said. And Strobe sharply responded, I'm at my house. I can do whatever I want with my guns. And the congressman also drew criticism from Representative Eric Stilwell, Democrat from California.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So
That
Representative Stilwell says, this is who Republicans are. Kids are being buried and they're bragging about how many guns they own during our gun safety hearing, he said. They are not serious. They are a danger to our kids.
He's pointing out the fact that they would ban the most sold handgun in the United States, the Glock 19.
Yeah. It's not happening. It's not going to happen. All right,
They're pushing for it.
Yeah, let's go to Phoenix. So Phoenix police officer who fought for his life after he was shot 8 times in December is returning home Thursday after making a recovery his family's calling a miracle. So Tyler Moldovan, 22, was shot in the line of duty on December 14 after he and other officers responded to calls reporting a vehicle driving erratically and doing donuts at around 2 a.m. in the morning. He was assisting other officers in his search for the driver at an apartment complex when they spotted Essa Williams, 24, hiding behind a wall in an apartment patio. Phoenix Police Sergeant Vincent Cole said at the time, and also Cole said that Moldovan issued commands to Williams, who then shot him several times. The young officer was taken to the hospital in a critical condition, where he was placed on life support and not expected to survive, according to the court documents. And Williams was booked in the Maricopa County Jail on charges of attempted first-degree murder, possession of a weapon by a prohibited person, and resisting arrest. Possession of a weapon by a prohibited person and resisting arrest. Ain't that something? Let's go to Texas. All right, so over in Texas, escaped Texas inmate dead after being linked to 5 slaying, according to what authorities said. So the Leon County Sheriff's Office, located about halfway between Dallas and Houston, announced about 10:30 p.m. that Gonzalo Lopez was captured and deceased. This happened on Friday. Officials said he had been killed in a shootout with authorities out of Cosa County near San Antonio. And authorities had released additional information hours earlier about the search of Lopez, 46, who had been on the run since his escape from a prison bus last month. Man, this guy he escaped a month ago. Wow. And he'd been running a month. In a series of tweets, the Texas Department of Public Safety and the Texas Department of Criminal Justice said Lopez may have been driving a pickup that was missing from a cabin where authorities found 5 people dead. So allegedly, he killed the 5 people inside this home. Wow. And then took their vehicle. Well, that search is over now. For almost a whole month, he was on the run. That is insane. Let's go to Buffalo. Buffalo, New York. Republican Rep. Chris Jacobs announced Friday that he will not run for another term in Congress amid backlash over his support for new gun control measures. Jacobs, who represents parts of western New York, including suburban Buffalo, told reporters he has decided to retire instead of facing what he said would be an incredible divisive election. His announcement came just days after he broke with his party and voiced support for a federal assault weapons ban. The last thing we need is an incredible negative, half-truth-filled media attack funded by millions of dollars of special interest money coming into our community around the issues of guns and gun violence and gun control, according to the representative. He said last week, as the nation mourned the deadly shootings at a Texas elementary school and Buffalo supermarket, Jacobs said that he would vote that assault weapons ban and other measures if he had a chance. His comments sparked furious backlash among conservatives who have refused to consider new gun control legislation to try to curb the violence. So he's gonna, if that bill comes up, he's definitely gonna vote for that bill. Apparently there's some other Republicans that are jumping ship as well and doing the same thing. So we'll see how these numbers, come up, because that's the House. So as far as the House, it's easy for some anti-gun legislation to get passed in the House, but the question is, would it get passed in the Senate? So that's going to be the question. I'm curious about that. So because the Senate, the Republicans have Republicans have a strong hold in the Senate, and they're going to need a certain amount of votes there to get that passed in the Senate. So I'm just curious how that's going to all play out. And then midterms elections are very important. This November, it's important because whatever happens in November, if Democrats take a stronger hold of the Senate and even stronger, and they maintain power of the House, then that means they would have all 3 branches of government to do whatever they want because they have the White House. So that midterm election is very important because whatever happens there will affect the next 2 years and any gun legislation. So if you're worried about losing your Glock 19, in that bill that they're talking about, you're worried about, losing your SIG P250 or, your SIG 320, you might want to pay attention to your midterm elections and get out, because the Constitution says a well-regulated militia being the necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. As always, more guns equals less crime. You go out there and you buy yourself a gun. You've been listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
Hey, this is AWR Hawkins, Breitbart News, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.